Welcome to the Next Level Casino Careers Show, a series highlighting industry tips and insights from the best minds in the casino and hospitality industry. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited for today's conversation. Our guest today is revolutionizing not just women's professional soccer, but really just creating a new model for business and sports it brings purpose to the forefront. It's so near and dear to my heart. So please welcome with open arms, Julie Uhrman, founder and president of Angel City Football Club. Welcome, Julie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. There's so much I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about soccer quite a bit there, or football, as the Europeans also will say. But what I'm really interested in is this is a career side, is kind of your development as a leader. You've done so many things in your careers over the course of time. So maybe if we started off, maybe just give us a brief update of, how you got to where you've gotten to now.
I wish I could be brief. It's much easier to direct people to my LinkedIn. I think what's most important to note is I've always sort of felt like an entrepreneur. I've always loved the idea of building businesses. My stepfather was an entrepreneur, so I watched him sort of from the sidelines build an organization. And he sort of preached the importance of, especially I think as being a woman, the importance of earning your own money, being in charge, being on the revenue side of a ledger versus the cost side of a ledger so that you're not dispensable. And I really took that to heart. My career started in investment banking, which is actually a lot like entrepreneurship. As an investment banker, you fall in love with other people's ideas and businesses, and you try to bring them money or investors, right? And with initial public offerings or private placements. So I started my career as an investment banker in 1999, which dates me. Was sort of the first internet bubble, really around business to business, and wanted to get into the internet as something new at the time. So left banking, spent time building up sort of my first company, definitely learned about what I didn't know. You walk out of college and you think you know everything. And then it was sort of like, what do I want to do next? I love entertainment, live here in Los Angeles. So looked at the studios and ended up at a video game company. Loved playing video games when I was a kid, so it was a natural fit, and spent a lot of my career in video games, whether it was on the console side or on the mobile game side, and got into mobile early when we were really transitioning from regular phones and brew decks and triple tap texting to what we have today, which is real content and real, almost like AAA style gaming on mobile devices. Based on all of that experience in 2013, I left IGN, which was a division of Fox, to start Ouya, which is an Android-based video game console. And we could talk about that. But I was a single founder. We launched it on Kickstarter because it just required a lot of capital, because it was not only a game ecosystem, but it was hardware and software and SDK. So we ended up going on Kickstarter. It was incredible. We raised $8.6 million from 63,000 bankers, the third largest ever, and continued to run that for a number of years until I sold that. Stayed in content, went to VR, did some work with AR, went to Lionsgate, focused on streaming services, and then, found my way to Ouya. So it's not a linear line in any capacity, but I think there's a lot that that bridges it, which is being able to be entrepreneurial, having sort of a seat at the table, not only to make decisions, but to see how other groups, other roles and organizations are run, so that when I become a CEO or a president, I understand what marketing does, and finance and sales and customer service and operations, and really something around sort of direct to consumer entertainment. That seemed to be sort of my through line.
Yeah, I think that when you talk about entrepreneurial mindset and how important that is, even in a regular business like here we have at Yamava, it's not necessarily an entrepreneurship, but to think that way, there's a mindset that's important to look beyond what the norm is and to kind of put yourself out there and do things different that nobody else does, a kind of a differentiator in the market. Did you find that, like even with Ouya as a great example, you guys had incredible success and you also had some incredible challenges. Yeah. What did you learn along the way that's, that helped you bounce and continue to move and grow?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. Anything that's good is hard. Like, actually having the idea might be the easiest thing. Execution's the hard part. Building your team is the hard part. Getting your fan base to love what you're doing. Like even at Ouya, we launched a game developer fund. We took $1 million of the money that we raised and said, we are going to give that back to game developers. And I actually got crucified on social because I didn't put enough rules in place to how you could get that $1 million. Everyone thought they would sort of cheat the system, and I wanted to be much more trustworthy. And I remember that day vividly. I was really actually upset. I was like, here I am trying to do, I think, something amazing. Like how is giving $1 million to independent game developers something bad? And I was literally, and so I think one of the things that you learn as an entrepreneur is just that vulnerability, right? And I really believe being as close as possible as you can to your fans or your customers, not only so you can learn, but it creates a stronger emotional connection. But that means you're going to have to be vulnerable. And what you think is a win may not be a win. My biggest lesson at Ouya, though, is something I think we all say a lot, but we use it maybe more in platitudes than we do in truth, which is this concept of trusting your gut. So when you're a leader, when you're building a team, by default, you want to bring in talent that's better than you or experts in areas that you're not an expert in, right? So you can trust them and you build it together. And there's a lot of trust and faith when you bring people in who know something you don't know. And
100%. Yeah,
right?
that's it.
And it's interesting because with Ouya, we had hardware, right? So we actually had a physical product that we had to sell in retail. And my original strategy was to sell it initially online through our website and through Amazon. So we could control the inventory. We could see who our customers are. We control the data. And the nice thing is if someone pays me, I get the money right away. If someone pays Amazon, I can get the money right away up to 60 days. It's really up to me. But the success of Kickstarter resulted in so much positive inbound from retailers. We had Walmart and Best Buy and Target and Game in the UK. We had all these people wanting our product. And you're sort of like, oh my God, are they ever going to want your product again? This is the moment. This is when you go big. And what you learn is you can't go into one store, 10 stores. You literally have to go into all 1,000 stores. And we made the decision based on advice that, take advantage of the opportunity, get the shelf space, create your position, and it makes it really hard for someone to come in and usurp you. And it became one of our biggest challenges because if you pay me money, I get it right away. If you buy it at Target, I might get that money 150 days later or 180 days later. So you can imagine the cash flow exercises we had to go through and the inventory management we had to go through. And so it's a long way of saying that, I'd rather be wrong betting on myself than wrong betting on someone else where I'm supposed to trust them in the first place. It's not their mistake. They use their best educated guess on what we should do, right? So that was sort of the most important thing, which I think is transferable anywhere. It's like, I'd rather make the decision and be wrong, and I can own that, versus delegating that, going against what I think. And then if it doesn't pan out, I can't do anything with that, right? Other than learn from it. And that was sort of a tough lesson to learn.
I think that trust your gut is always important. I think the same way as well, but I also, it's making sure you have a really great team to help you validate some of your feelings. And if you don't trust it and you feel like there's something in your gut, you have the ability to run it through some amazing team members. I know you guys have done a great job in Angel City and who you've hired and how you've kind of competed into a different field in a different way. And I do want to get to that in a minute, but I wanted to challenge one piece that you talked about. You said like anything that comes good is hard. And I know I've heard you actually say, I think in another interview, it's beat the no, or if like no is a lack of imagination, I think is the exact quote I think that I heard, which I totally believe in. When people tell you no, it's not a no forever. It's a no the way you're telling me, but there's a way to get to the yes. How have you been able to develop that with your teams? Because I think intuitively you have that it's never a no. It's always a possibility. Yeah. But the hard part about with teams is to get them and develop them to go, yes, it's possible all the time. We just got to find the right way to get there.
Yeah. I mean, look, saying no is easy, right? It's easy not to try something. It's easy not to challenge something. It's easy not to build something. When you say yes, you're taking a risk inherently. There's some percentage of it that's a risk. And depending on how risk averse we are, that can be really exciting to some people or really nervous to others. What I learned with Angel City was really interesting. When we started fundraising, we got 100 no's. And we started to slowly doubt, like, we really believe in this. We think there's a market in LA. We think women's sports is going to grow. We think we have this winning formula of mission and capital, and we just kept getting no's. And we started to question, are we wrong? And very quickly we decided that no, we're not wrong. We're not going to the right people. And that's one of the bigger things too, is you have to go to the people that are open to the idea, right? That have the imagination, that are willing to see the possibility of it and are either willing to take the risk or willing to do the work with you. And ultimately really are as passionate about the idea or the vision that you are. Like if someone's not passionate, you're not going to turn them into a no. We pitched people that didn't like sports. Should we have been surprised when they said no? Absolutely not. Right? We pitched people that didn't live in LA. So they didn't understand, you know, the fanaticism that happens in LA if you strike it right. And so when they would say no because they were daunted by the other 11 professional sports teams, should we have been surprised? No, we shouldn't have been surprised. They weren't the right people, right? And so I think for me, it's making sure we're giving the right pitch to the right person who can hear it in the right way, right? Because delivery is also incredibly important. But then the second thing, in the way that we've internalized it in the company, is that the problem with saying no is that you just kill creativity, right? And so we've adopted this yes and mentality. Hey, I want to have a fan fest that, you know, does X, Y, and Z. Yes, we can do that. And right. So it's like, you're not immediately shutting down the idea, but you're also kind of moving it into a place where it may be more executional. And the person who had the idea isn't getting defensive right off the bat because you said no. Right. So we really try to focus on this yes and strategy so that it continues to be a collaborative, you know, creative discussion versus one party's getting defensive right away.
Yeah, it's funny to hear you talk about creativity and with a sports team. Like people don't put those together, but there's so much beyond just what goes on the pitch. And you talked about no being easy, and we use a statement here that's do what's right, not what's easy. And it feels like that's kind of down your avenue of where you guys have continued to do what's right, not what's easy, whether it's through your partnerships, whether it's through your team and how you've developed your contracts and all of the stuff that you've done differently. I think that, you know, I'm sure a lot of people questioned when you were announced or when you were picked to be the president of this because you didn't have professional sports experience. You're a female in a male-dominated industry. There's so many red flags that people probably checked off. And what I think it did is it allowed you to do things a different way and have a different point of view as opposed to we do this the same way at every organization. Can you talk about that mentality and working with your co-founders and how you were able to, you know, convince them that, look, there's a better way of doing this. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of buy-in, but there is a better way to do this.
Well, I would say a couple of things. First, I think it helps when you announce with Natalie Portman because most of the attention is on her and not who is Julie Uhrman. That is certainly helpful. But we also were really thoughtful about when we announced. I mean, really to address that topic. We believe there is a global audience for women's football, and more importantly, a global audience for Angel City Football Club. We're going to start locally, but we believe that our values, what we stand for, the game day experience, the product we put on the pitch is something that any football player in the world, fan, can support. And so when we went out and announced, we talked to the soccer press and we talked to the sports press, but you can imagine that's a small amount of all press. So we told one message to the sports press. We told a different message to lifestyle, right? Like the People magazines and the Us magazines who care what Natalie Portman is doing, what Eva Longoria is investing in and Jen Gardner is investing in, right? We told a different story to tech and venture who are going to care about Karen Norman, who's our third co-founder, who's a venture capitalist, and myself, who's, you know, been in entertainment and tech for so long. And so we were really thoughtful about who we put in front and what story we're telling so that we could get sort of the acceptance of that community. I'd say the biggest pushback wasn't necessarily on me. It was about the three of us collectively. You know, I like to say like an actress, a venture capitalist, an entrepreneur walk into a bar, you know, and like somehow they walk out with a sports team. Like that just doesn't happen. Three female founders with no sports experience. It just doesn't happen. It really, really doesn't happen. And I think what we were able to do was when they had no expectations of what's possible, is to sell the vision and to be so passionate and committed to the vision. Like, this is our vision, and the only people that are going to be able to execute it are us. And the fact that we aren't coming from sports, we don't have this mentality that's been done. It's been done before, so it can't be done again. Or it was tried before and it didn't work, so it can't try again. Like, we actually didn't look at what other people did. We didn't compare ourselves to other people. We said, this is how we're going to build it. And we were able to attract investors and, you know, eventually build our team of people that, you know, bought into the vision. And, you know, if you want to drill back into my history, you can see that I can execute, right? So, like, just you sort of take that leap of faith. I think it helps that, you know, I'm a sports fan. I'm based, you know, I'm from here, LA, live in LA my whole life. So I think there are things that make it easier, but just being so transparent about like what our vision is, what our values are, what our mission is, what we're trying to accomplish, how we're trying to accomplish it, what message we're telling in what circle to what group of people, I think helped address that.
I think having that vision in the end is always so important. You know, I'm working for a Native American casino here. Our tribe, San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, is always looked generationally. And so when they plan, they're planning 7 generations down and 7 years down. And, you know, from corporate America, they're looking at this year's numbers to make sure it meets stockholders' expectations or whatnot. And so for someone to look at it that forward knows, you know, I understand there's a process to get to what's 7 years, 7 generations down the way, and to trust the process. I think that's where I really love what you guys have done and how I totally can be like kindred to what you guys are doing, because that's how we continue to do that. You know, we lead with the right purpose in mind. And I've heard you talk about lead with purpose. Can you explain how lead with purpose drives your organization? Yeah,
I mean, it's the lens with which we make every decision. And I think that's really unique. We want to drive revenue. We want to be profitable, no question. But we also want to have an impact in the community. We want to set higher expectations on and off the pitch. That was our mission statement from day one, is setting higher expectations. And in this league specifically, and in women's football, it should have been a lot harder, right? It should have been a lot harder. But, you know, this is the 3rd iteration of a league. It's in its 8th year. The foundation was really rocky. There was systemic abuse. There were, you know, players weren't getting paid. And so, you know, to say that we want to set higher expectations for us meant investing in our community, investing in our team, and investing in our product, and investing at a level that is deserving of professional sports, at a level that, you know, is equal to what a men's team would invest, on a relative basis, and creating an experience for fans that if they close their eyes, they wouldn't know where they are. And it's effectively genderless, right? That was critical to us. And so, wanting to set higher expectations, we always talked about this idea of building an organization where mission and capital coexist. Because if we could be profitable in an industry, sports, where a majority of teams aren't profitable, and we get to lead with purpose, setting higher expectations, having a positive impact in our community, we are actually not only having an outcome that most don't get, but doing it in a way where the community benefits, then others will follow. And that was always the goal. It was like, how do we get others to follow? And so we decided from the beginning that we needed to be as authentic as possible in this concept of leading with purpose. And if we did an event a year or an event a quarter, we felt that would be inauthentic, right? You're performing, right? And so for us, we said, you know what? Everything we're going to do is going to have mission and capital. Every decision we make is going to be, how does this better the community and how does this better the team? And we did that when we launched our sponsorship model. We did that when we started selling seat deposits. We did that with our ticket gate receipts, where a percentage goes back to our players. We set up a fund for former players because we want to support players. And that means former, current, and future. So we support our current today. We set up our Player 22 fund as a grant system for former players to invest in themselves, to stay invested in the sport that they built, in our case, soccer. So we're supporting former players, not to mention having 14 former U.S. Women's National Team players as owners of Angel City. And we're also, you know, obviously working on the future, which is something that, you know, we have done with you, with our sort of activation of the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, where we work together and have partnered, and to date have given free soccer programming to over 75 young athletes, 63 hours of programming as relates to teaching soccer fundamentals. So we really do want to walk the talk, and we do that with every decision we make.
I think that like going into the community and being a part of the community, it's a cyclical piece, because if you're part of the community, then they're going to come out and watch. It all is part of the whole process. And, you know, again, I'm fortunate to work for this tribe that I think up to year to date, they've donated $13 million to charities all throughout the community to make the community better and to rise the community up. And it's not because that's, you know, oh, it's for a show. It's because it's the right thing to do. And that's what I love about like what you guys are doing, because it's not about we're doing this to check a box. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do. And, you know, the fact that you guys take a percentage of your sponsorship dollars and put it into the community is, again, unheard of in sports teams. The fact that all of the team members get a percentage of the revenue is unheard of, but it certainly, I think, creates a buy-in that is like no other, that your team is going to want to be involved, whether they want to or not. They want to be involved because the success of the program directly hits to them too, as well, if they continue on with that path.
Yeah, and like you really said it. It's getting buy-in from everyone, Kenji. So you hear it all the time. You want female athletes to get paid more, right? Full stop. Everybody says you want female athletes to get paid more. So do I. And I will pay them as much as I possibly can within, you know, the confines of how much revenue I generate or how much money I've raised in my bill or what my CBA says, right? So at some point to get them more, or eventually to get them to be, you know, equal to their male counterparts, there has to be a business that supports it, right? And so if you want a different solution, you have to be, if you want to change, you have to be part of the solution effectively. So, you know, we said, okay, if you want to pay players more, then come to a game. If you buy a ticket, a percentage of your ticket price will go to the players, right? Sponsors, if you want to really have an impact in our community, if you really want to have shared values with Angel City, then let's put 10% of our dollars together and do something for the community that's outside, you know, the LEDs of the stadium, right? And create a year-long relationship, to your point, with the community, who ultimately will become fans. One of like my favorite stories is during the pandemic, we focused on food insecurity and sort of that last mile in distributed food. It's about 30% of Los Angeles that experience some sort of food insecurity. Many, many months later, we're at a game, and one of the fans walked up to one of my team members and he said, "I just want to let you know that I'm here because you fed my grandfather. And I wanted to show my support for the club because it was such an important time." And it's like, those are the things that matter. And to your point, like, I can't look 7 generations out and tell you what's going to happen with Angel City, but I think I can look to, you know, individuals and how I can affect their lives and how that can sort of pay it forward and bring it back to the club. And so it really does benefit us to lead with purpose. And we see it, you know, we have so many examples of that. You know, I'm really sort of proud of the way the team is executed and excited about how we do this, because I think it is changing the future. And I think we are showing people it can be done differently.
Yeah, I was talking to our directors literally about an hour ago, and we were talking about, you know, what we're doing for the holidays, whether it's a toy drive and adopt a family type of things. And we put a lot of effort with our teams. Our team members are so generous with this process. And what I tried to talk about was, look, we can do great as far as what we do in revenue and how we profit. And, you know, that helps us with our financial well-being. But what we do in the community to make our world better, make the world a better place than you left it, is so much greater than any financial reward that you could possibly get. And I see that out of what you guys are doing. I think that's why we're so happy to be partnered with you guys for those types of, I mean, again, this is right up our alley. It speaks to our culture and values. Now, I know you talked about, like, you guys your attendance is fantastic. You did something also that I just wanted to point out for anyone who's watching, that people talk about supporting the club and buying tickets, but you need people in the seats to go to the concession, to pay for parking, to be there to cheer the team on, so that the television audience can see that, the commentators can gain the excitement, all of that. And so I think you guys did something where you guys, if you purchase tickets and can't go to the game, you guys will donate the tickets to have someone come in to watch the game.
Yeah, we do a couple programs along those lines. One is ticket donation. We don't want a seat to go empty. And so for season ticket holders who can't attend a game, if they give us back the seats, we'll donate those specifically to those in the, to individuals in the community that can't afford it. We bus kids into the games. And so that's part of one of our 10% programs is being able to transport kids to the games that don't have transportation in themselves. So yeah, look, there's so many commercial economic reasons for packing the stadium, but it sort of pales in the comparison to generating a new fan. Right. And so what do we do? How can we generate more fans? How can we get them to fall in love with our incredible team, our incredible product, our values? And we see it get paid forward. A lot of our community comes to our community service events and chips in. So you really create this connection with Angel City. That's more than just our 12 games a year.
Yeah, I think if you come once, you can become a fan. Like we even say that out here. Like, I just need to get you here one time to our building so you can see what it looks like and understand that it's not what you think in your mind it is. It's so much better than that. And once I can get you that one time, I know I'm going to have a shot at getting you back every time. And I think that's part of what you guys are doing with that. It's fantastic. You talked about the landscape of professional women's sports in general too. And I know you can't see 7 generations. I'm going to make you look like maybe 10 years down, but I have seen some outstanding momentum in women's sports in general. I was heavily involved in watching the NCAA women's basketball championship. I have a friend whose daughter is one of the captains on the LSU team that won it. And so I was invested, but people around me were also invested in that crazy LSU and Caitlin Clark and that story there. And then WNBA has just continued to take off in my hometown, Las Vegas. The Aces are continuing to dominate and they're doing great. But then I watched the NCAA volleyball game at Nebraska on Big Ten Network, which was crazy in that stadium of, I think it was like 70,000 people attending that, which again, I think there's so much momentum. And then when I look at you guys in your league at NWSL, the Kansas City Current, they're building a stadium just for the women, which is, I think, a first of its kind in the league too. And I just think I also saw an expansion in Boston. That's going to happen right in 2026, which feels a lot like the kind of thing that you guys did here with getting a large group of, diverse investors, a lot of women-owned groups there to come in and be a part of it. I see so much momentum. What do you see like 10 years down the way for Angel City?
Angel City, 10 years down the road. I mean, every game is sold out. So,
you're close already. You're getting close.
We've sold out 8 games to date since we started playing 4 this year. Our final match this year will be sold out. So we'll probably get to 5 or 6 games, about 50% of our games this year. But I think it's continuing to build the attention and awareness for Angel City. There's still people that don't know that Angel City exists here in Los Angeles. So how do we continue to tell the story, build fandom, and create that connection with our community, whether it's through our outreach, because that's how they come to us, or because they start to follow and fall in love with women's sports. So, I'd love to be able to pack our building. I think the other part is really the impact part, right? It's being able to look back and say, how many people's lives have we impacted? Because that is the generational impact. We're going to get rings, but at the end of the day, to your point, every year will be a new team. It'll be a new vision to achieve, a similar goal. But we really do look at how can we be the most valuable women's franchise in the world? How can we drive as much attention and awareness for our ultimate goal of driving towards equity, specifically in our case, gender equity and pay equity? And how can we impact the most lives in our community?
Yeah, I see so many big things, not just for women's sports, but for women's soccer. This whole functionality of what I've seen with what you and San Diego have done in the course of this short period of time and driving those numbers up. Now, obviously, I know it's not as successful in every jurisdiction and location, but I hope that it continues to gain and they see what you guys are doing and hopefully continue to push that effort and understanding that there's a bigger picture. And working on that.
Look, and San Diego's a great example. They've approached the market really differently. We've built Angel City to be a brand. That's a platform that stands for equity and impact, that has a football club, but ultimately could be so much more. And where, to your earlier question, we judge ourselves not only by the wins on the pitch, but the impact we have in the community and how we support, current, former, and future players. San Diego built a football club first. And there's literally nothing wrong with that. But in doing so, they leaned into their community, they built an identity, and they built an experience where they can get, they can sell out their 32,000 seat stadium. They can do an average of 15,000 fans per game. They are and what makes us similar is we've just invested. We've invested in our community. We've invested in our product. We've invested in our team. We've told our story, and we've created an identity that people want to become a part of. And there is no secret sauce in that. I literally just said what we did, right? So everybody can follow us, but it's a commitment to the investment. It's a commitment to building an incredible team. And it's a commitment to thinking about this literally day in and day out, not just during the season, but the entire year round. How do I engage my fans outside season? How do I engage them on weeks off? How do I engage them when our team plays away? It's being really intentional and thoughtful about creating that connection and providing something unique from Angel City that they can't get anywhere else. So they're going to want to come to us. And that's probably no different than what you and your team do at Yamava as well, right? How do you create that experience and invest in it and care about it? And sometimes you know that you might invest today and the results won't come for a while. And that's what makes people uncomfortable, right? Show me the ROI. I don't know what the ROI is. I just know it's going to be positive. And sometimes you need people where that's okay. Like that's good enough, right? And I think with Angel City, we had founders and Karen, Natalie, and myself, and a team where we believe so much in the opportunity for women's football here in Southern California and specifically in LA that we invested knowing the returns would be there, and they were.
Yeah, I think about how when we talk about like what you guys have done a little bit differently than San Diego. Obviously, San Diego has Alex Morgan with her millions of followers, but you guys have really done a good job with social media as well. And I think it's changed again, part of the marketplace of how you drive people in. You're in the most competitive sports market on the planet. And with 11 pro teams, you have USC, UCLA, and dozens of other colleges that have things to do. You have to compete against us and other destinations, Disneyland, Universal, like where people are going to spend their money. So, to differentiate that is really a good component. But social media, I think, is one of those areas where people don't use it necessarily the right way. And I think you guys have done a great job, not just with your particular, the Angel City, but also utilizing your investors to really work that avenue and really work as a unit together to push forward. Have you found that that is a really big key to I'm not going to call it inexpensive, but it's a much more inexpensive way to drive visits. Look,
social is stressful. I'm sure you know.
It is.
God, I don't manage the team. I'm a hard enough time managing my own tweets and posts. But I think it's more the approach that we took, which is we believe fandom has fundamentally changed. It used to be you follow a league, like I'm a football player, right? And, I live in New England, so I cheer for the Patriots and I'm a Tom Brady fan, right? That's the way it worked. And if Tom Brady leaves, well, you now hate Tom Brady because you are still a Patriots fan, right?
Yes.
This is a horrible example because I think everyone hates Tom Brady, but we'll just use this as an example.
I'm with you.
But the flip is, we believe that, fandom changed where you actually follow players first, league, team second, leagues third. I'm a Kristen Press fan. I love Kristen Press. I fell in love with her on the U.S. Women's National Team. Oh my God, she plays at Angel City. I am now an Angel City fan. Now I'm a supporter of all women's football. Kristen Press gets traded. I'm still a Kristen Press fan. I'm still going to go with Kristen Press. So knowing that, we felt the most important thing is to tell the story of our players, and not just one player because there's an opportunity that they could leave or get injured or get traded, but all of our players. So what we focus on is telling the story of all 28 of our players because they're all unique. They all have incredible different stories. Their social following combined is much greater than Angel City Football Club's.
Right.
And they have their own audience that if they're able to attract their audience to Angel City, we win. So we really focus our storytelling on who are the players, then who is the club, right? And then who's everybody else. And it's so, you don't see us just talking about Kristen Press, or when Kristen Press, gets injured halfway through our first season, it's okay. We're still talking about all of the other players, and there's still people to fall in love with. And then someone like a June Endo becomes a fan favorite, or Didi Harachich becomes a fan favorite, or Alyssa Thompson comes in, right? It allows us to have, players for every fan versus one player that we have to focus everything around, which I think just limits growth. It doesn't accelerate it.
Yeah, I'm a Kristen Press fan too, and my heart breaks every time I hear, when her knee. I feel like that's the worst thing ever, and it's what four surgeries in 13 months. Like, I want her back in the worst way for you guys there. And I love watching her on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, so does she. She's got a lot of unfinished business, and she's excited to play for Angel City in front of our fans. We're desperate to have her back and want her to take her time and develop. But
do it the right way. Like make the fourth surgery the last surgery. So I'm super excited for that. One thing that I will also want to talk about, and you said it earlier, is about passion and how important having passion is. And two pieces. I'm going to ask you two questions the same way because I'm just all scattered with so many thoughts about what you just talked about. I watched the HBO documentary, which was great. And I totally get what you're talking about. That created fandom for specific players that I didn't know before. And I was like, oh, this is great. These stories are incredible of how you guys managed through that first year, not just your front office team, but the players as well, and the difficulties that you had. And that's just kind of when you open a new property or something like that. Like, these are the things that I remember seeing, is nothing comes easy, but it created great fandom in that space. But it also showed the passion that you and the team had. And I recall specifically you, Kara, and Natalie out in front of all of the people there, all of the audience there, cheering the 3-clap thing there. I'm not going to do that in front of everybody here, but watching that and feeling that energy. How did that feel for you? One, like, just the day it happened the first time, and you're like, God, we did this. And then second, like, how do you feel that HBO documentary has helped, hurt, whatever on that side?
Yeah, I mean, I still get super emotional thinking about that first day, because, as an entrepreneur, you have more failures than you have successes, right? There's more, times you don't launch than you do launch, right? So after sort of 2.5 years of having a dream, and then having it come true, it's just surreal. It's really, really surreal in front of 22,000 people. It's not like you pushed go on a button on your computer and and the website launches, right? It's not like there's an actual sort of emotional, physical experience with Angel City. I remember prior to our first game, as we were, spending time with LAFC, and I was going to more events at Banc of California, now BMO Stadium, I was able, so I spent a lot of time at the stadium that at the end of the day was huge. And I remember walking in and constantly saying, this is so big. Like, how are we going to fill this out? And I was nervous, super, super nervous. And it's funny, fast forward now, a 1.5 years in, BMO's my home. I know I can fill every single seat. It looks too small. And that's just a kind of a surreal thing. But, I had 3 goals for the home opener. One was we'd sell it out. 2 was we'd have global attention on Angel City and this game and what we're trying to accomplish. And 3 is we'd win the game. And obviously I can only control 2 of those, and I'm still learning. I don't control the 3rd. So it was unreal that we sold out. Yes, we had global attention. The Guardian did a 20-page photo essay on us. And it really did put us on the map. I think the 3-clap was really fun because a little bit of an inside story. So during the Olympics, that was during COVID, Julie Foudy would do a Instagram live every day where she'd work out in front of the camera. She'd drink her coffee, and it was like, good morning, party people. And she'd do her little exercise, and she just talked to us about what it was like being in quarantine during the Olympics, then eventually during the Olympics. And she started all of those with the 3-clap. She was like, good morning, everyone. It was like, I just noticed that, and I don't even know if it was intentional. Actually, it wasn't, because I brought it up to her later. She had no idea that she was doing that every time. And so internally, we sort of adopted the Julie Foudy 3-clap. So we wanted to get people together, instead of raise your hand, right, or flick lights when you're in kindergarten, we would do the 3-clap. And every time we celebrated somebody, we did a 3-clap. And it just became this. Julie Foudy's an owner. So it was an amazing tie to Julie. And it just sort of became the Angel City 3-clap. And I had this idea to do it at the stadium as a way to welcome the players in. And this is a great example where everyone was like, there's no way. This is not a good idea. There's no way. How are we going to do this? And I'm like, no. This is an awesome idea. The whole stadium doing a 3-clap. This is a great idea. Figure it out. And to the credit of my team, they are like, okay, I said, figure it out. Didn't hear anything for a long time. Then one of our producers showed me a video, and he created a video around how to do a 3-clap and what the allure is. Like, he created the meaning behind it. You know, asked Julie Foudy, would you lead us in the first 3-clap? Absolutely. Before the game, we got all the owners. I mean, it was crazy. We moved all the owners from like one room to another room. I mean, we're ushering like Billie Jean King through a hallway. I mean, the whole thing is so surreal. And we get in this super tight room, and I have Jules explain the 3-clap, and then she adds the huh at the end, which was added at the end. It was a 3-clap, and all of a sudden it's a 3-clap and at the top of your lungs. And so she says all this, and she's Julie in her most amazing way. And, you know, Mia's cowering next to her. She's so embarrassed. And Jules is like, okay, we're going to practice it. And I'm like, okay, well, this is the test, right? If I can get all of these owners, you know, which are celebrities and athletes and personalities, that to do this, then this will be great. And she, you know, gave the the countdown. Every single person did it. It was surreal. And that was it. And it's just amazing way to, you know, introduce our fans and to do something collective. As a fan base, not everyone sings the songs and everyone does the chants or knows them, but this is something we all do together. And then I think it has that sort of beautiful meaning. It's just like, and now we welcome our team to the pitch. But that was amazing. I mean, we scored within the first 5 minutes. We had 2 goals with, I think, the first 20 minutes. It was just, you know, it's the Hollywood ending you're too afraid to write because nobody believes it. Right? It's Hoosiers. Like, you can't write that, right? It doesn't happen in real life. I've dated myself because half your audience hasn't seen Hoosiers. And if you haven't seen Hoosiers and you're a sports fan, please go watch Hoosiers.
Worth it for sure.
And then, yeah, so it's incredible. I mean, it's really a blessing to have the HBO doc series Angel City because, you know, I don't have to rely on my memory of the event, which is just to be able to see it. I think, you know, the docu-series for me was obviously really honest because we really wanted to show all aspects of building the club. But I also think it shows how hard it is. And when you're going through it, I think you forget because you can't focus on that. Because if you focus on that, you're not going to get through it. You're not going to get to the other side. It's like, there's no way we can do the 3-clap, figure it out. Like, no one's focused on how hard it is. It's like, okay, we're going to figure it out. Well, if we do a video that explains it and we get Julie to lead it, who nobody will say no to, like, that's how it happens, right? And so, yeah, I love having it. I get texts almost every week by somebody flying somewhere who went on to the screen in their chair and went to HBO, and it's on airplanes. So, look, it tells the story of Angel City. It really, at the end of the day, though, really promotes women's sports, women's football, women athletes here in the U.S. And it shows a model of how it could be built differently with 3 females that know nothing about sports in the first place and be successful, right? So absolutely. I think there's a lot to get out of it. Yeah.
I mean, football in America has taken a really long time to be successful. And the men's MLS has been around for how many years and has struggled for years and years and years. And I think sometimes you have to kind of thank Hollywood sometimes for things just happen to pop out at the right time. You know, you have obviously World Cup comes out, but you have Ted Lasso coming out. You have Welcome to Wrexham coming out. You have the Matildas on Disney. Like, there's a lot of things that are all leaning towards the popularity of the sport, and that it's not just, you know, people kicking balls around, running up and down. Like, it's not. There's so much more to it, and getting a better understanding. And like you said, the fandom of knowing the players is huge. And that's what draws people into the sport. It's so, like, what that does is, I think it's just part of the innovation of how you change the way people look at a team or a club. And so, like, innovation, I know that this is in the heart of what you've done over your entire life. Can you tell people about, like, how important it is? And do you have some innovations that you see going in the future that may affect not just your business, but world in general?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes innovation, I mean, I think people get put off by the word innovation because it implies something really big, right? Like, something did not exist yesterday and exists today. That's an innovation. And that's not always the case. They can be small innovations. And I think in every role you have, there can be small innovations. And even from a leadership standpoint, like, my leadership style is one of autonomy and accountability. We agree on what our goals are. We agree on how they're going to be measured. I make sure you get what you need to be successful. And then I'm really there as a resource for someone to problem solve, right? But innovating could also be, you know, that person needing greater support. So now we got to set up one-on-ones, or maybe we need to set up daily stand-ins. Like, how do you innovate to, you know, achieve the goals that you want? Welcoming our fans is really important to us at the stadium, right? And the thing about BMO Stadium is some people drive, some people take the metro, some people Uber. The metro is actually pretty far from the stadium, and you can sort of get lost going between the different museums and whatnot. And so we wanted to figure out how can we help our fans, get to the stadium. And so, this isn't innovation that something didn't exist yesterday and exists today, but we actually intentionally formed a partnership and used our 10% from that partnership to create wayfinders, actual people that can actually manage and move people through. It's innovative because we haven't seen it done anywhere else. It's sort of obvious also, right? But we found a way to do it in a really positive way. We don't have a depth. I think we have one depth. I don't even remember, but we're really conscious of how do we, take care of fans at the stadium. And, how do you improve that experience, right? How do you provide all the necessary tools for them to have? And so we think about that as whether you're, general supporter or you're in the supporter section or if you're in a premium area, but how do we create the absolute best experience? And I think we're always sort of tweaking and innovating. It's just about having that mentality of yes and, right? It's like, we'll figure it out, and if you try really hard to figure it out and you're not successful, then at least you tried, right? But I found that there are a few things that aren't solvable. Maybe not exactly the way you had intended to solve it, but you can get there, right? And so anyway, I would just say that I think innovation is a mindset, and it can be small and impactful, or it can be large and impactful, but it shouldn't ever be daunting.
I think innovation, like when you talk about from the fan perspective and trying to look at that, again, it's something that even though we're in two entirely different industries, we're still into that same, what's the experience of the people walking through the door? And you don't normally see it out of sports teams, especially in mass stadiums that are out there. I've been to many a game where I had to find my way in, didn't know how to get to a parking spot, didn't know where my seats were, asked someone where my seats were. They didn't know. They sent me down a wrong path, like not being cohesive and being communicative. And again, here the same way, we're a massive casino and trying to make sure that all of our team members are super helpful in walking people where they can to different locations, because it's easy to get lost in these spaces and change the behavior and change the experience of someone walking through the door. That's the differentiator, I think, when it comes to being good and being great. Those are some, great pieces to that. I'm going to ask you one more question before we close out, because I know I'm already over the amount of time that we were going to talk, but I can't get enough of this here. Like, from a leadership perspective, actually from, your life perspective, you've pivoted from different organizations, different cultures inside of organizations, and tried to create a lot of change in the world. But taking the pivot is a really big risk, I think, for a lot of people, and changing something that, look, I'm doing this job because I'm good at it, and this is what I do, and maybe not passionate about it, but it's really hard to take a step to go in a different direction. So I know you embrace the pivot is the only way I can say that. How do you talk to people about, look, you need to embrace the pivot to put yourself in a better position for success or happiness in some cases? Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure I'd say embrace the pivot. I think being an entrepreneur, you're sort of stuck with it. But look, I made the joke early that, you have to look at my LinkedIn to see how long my career is. And it is not a straight line from investment banking to co-founder and president of Angel City. And looking back, a couple of things that strike me, which is what I'll share with my kids, is first of all, careers are long. They're really, really long. Like, you're working for 40 plus years. I mean, it is long, right? And so not being in so much of a rush to truly get to a role that not only that you're good at, but to your point, like, you have some level of passion and excitement for. We spend a majority of our time at work. We spend a majority of our time with the people at work. And we don't take the necessary amount of vacations or the mental health days that we need to have. So, why shouldn't you enjoy what you do from the moment you wake up to the moment you get home? And, what's so amazing about Angel City, by building it with this concept of mission and capital, I know that everything I do every single day isn't just going to drive the sport forward and drive revenue and profits for my investors, but it's having a positive impact on the community. So I don't have to wait till my retirement to give back. I know that I'm giving back today. So to me, that's incredibly rewarding. I think pivoting is important when you feel you've hit your ceiling and you're not going to grow anymore. Pivoting is important when you don't feel seen. right? If you're not seen by those that can help develop you, help grow you, give you great feedback, then it's also a time to lead. Building your network is critically important. Like where you go to college might get you that first job, but after that, it really is your network. People vouching for you, talking about your character, talking about your work ethic. Kara Norman and I, my co-founder at Angel City, I've never worked with Kara or Natalie before. Kara and I have known each other for 20 plus years. We both grew up in LA. We actually played basketball against each other. I'm an entrepreneur. She's a venture capitalist. So our paths crossed a lot of times. I pitched her a lot of businesses. She never said yes. We ran in some of the same social circumstances, and we had a mutual respect for each other, so that when Natalie, had the idea to bring a women's professional soccer team to LA and approached Kara, and I happened to be in the right place at the right time, Kara approached me because there was this overall sort of respect and, and ability to sort of see each other's strengths and know what we were each about. And then I had to prove myself, of course. But I think that's really the most important thing. And you can do it at Yamava, you can do it with your partners, but it's finding a place where you feel valued and where you can be the most valued. And I think that's when pivoting is important. And you don't have to be alone. You can talk to your bosses about this. You can talk to your coworkers about this, about how you feel or what you need. Because if you're growing and you're improving, it's only benefiting the organization you're with, right? And if you're not finding purpose in your organization, then that's an opportunity for you to, hey, let me create something here, or let me go find it somewhere else. But the pivot can be exciting. At the end of the day, even if it is the wrong call, at a minimum, you've increased your experience and you've grown your network, which are two just highly credible things. And then the last thing is I've done a lot of jobs where I don't have a passion for it. And I tell you, I work smarter, better, and enjoy life more when I work and do something that I love.
Yeah, for sure. I said I was going to ask you more, but I have one more because it's important, I think, for people who are watching this. Mother of 2 kids, but I know you work your tail off. Like that is what I know about you from just talking to you, but also from researching about you. I know you work your tail off. How do you manage and navigate work-life balance in those categories? I know it's one of the more difficult things, and whether you're male or female, if you're an involved parent, period, it's really difficult to do that. How have you been able to manage that?
The honest answer is I don't. And I think anyone who tells you they have mastered work-life balance and kids I'd like to meet them. It's really hard. I've sort of started thinking about it more as work-life harmony versus work-life balance, effectively, because there are some times I need to be more involved in work, and I don't want to feel guilty about that. And there are some times that my family's going to need me more, and I don't want to feel guilty about that. I think that's the biggest challenge, is to not feel guilty when you're doing what you're doing, because then it's taking away from you being present in that moment. I'm somebody that runs a million miles an hour. I work all the time. I have a huge sense of urgency. So the way that I've been able to sort of address this work-life harmony concept is really trying to set time aside and trying to slow down and recognize that nobody else responds. Nobody else acts like I do, and nobody expects the responses in the way that I give them, and being okay with that. So when my kids were younger, I told my team when I was at Ouya, I am offline from, 4 to 8 or 4 to 6. I'm offline. I have to be home. I have to be present. Once I bathe the kids and put them to bed, I'll be back online for as long as you need me. So it's setting that time aside. It's putting the phone away when you get home. It's turning off alerts. It's being present and just recognizing that there's very few things in this life that are truly, truly urgent. And when you can really accept that there are a few things that are urgent, then you allow yourself time to be present. I am still a work in progress. It's gotten a little bit easier, mostly because my kids have gotten older, so they don't want to spend as much time with me. But it's hard. It's hard. I
love work-life harmony. That's the greatest. I'm stealing that forever. I will no longer refer to anything but work-life harmony, because you're right. I mean, I also find myself in that same role. My kids are way older now at this point. But when they were younger, there were, if I look back, I was like, man, I wish I had better work-life harmony at the time, because I missed out on several years that I wish I could get back, and you don't get those back. It's important that I try and push this out to my teams as well, to say, look, we're here for the big thing, but there's a bigger thing than the big thing. What we do here is big for us, but what you do outside of here is bigger. And so let's make sure you manage what you need to manage. If someone needs time off because something's going on in their life, let's figure a way to make that happen.
Absolutely.
It's the most important thing. We close these out typically with talking to our guests and asking them for 3 tips to take their career to the next level. If I asked Julie, what are the 3 tips to take my career to the next level, what would you tell them?
Be curious, seek feedback, and always strive to grow and improve.
I love it. Seek feedback is probably one of the ones that I think that's the most important. And when you seek feedback, know that you have to accept bad feedback too. Things that you don't want to hear, but it's either a perception or it's a reality, one of the two. However it is, you have to be able to do that. And as a leader, I think the other side is give feedback. That's right. With candor. It's, sometimes not all feedback is great. You have to give honest feedback. You don't have to be brutally honest, but you have to be honest. I think that's really what separates you as a leader as well, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. It's hard. Look, it's not easy to give constructive criticism, constructive feedback, but that's honestly not giving it is doing a disservice to your team, because then they can't grow. And you're judging them on something that they're falling down on, that they don't know they're falling down on, and they can't improve it unless you tell them. So it's hard for managers, and that's, to your point, it's an important role that managers play, though.
Fantastic. Well, Julie, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I could have asked questions for another hour. I love hearing your stories.
I could have stared at your jersey for another hour. So
I got this. It's good. Yeah, I'm prepped for today. Has it got my name on the back?
Yes.
I'm ready to go. And I wish I could be there for the next game. I don't know if I can work my schedule, but I know it's a huge game. I don't know if, like, actors say break a leg or what we do for professional sports.
Just win.
Just win. I know this is a really big game for us for the playoff push.
Yeah.
I know you're going to be there just sweating it out with the players on the side of the field. But I wish you all of the best of luck. I can't wait to be out there at the stadium again to watch the game. And thank you again so much from the bottom of my heart. Appreciate it.
No, my pleasure, Kenji. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
Check out more episodes on nextlevelcasinocareers.com.